Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so happy that you're here. This podcast is a place for conversations about balancing a healthy lifestyle and being happy, more specifically, happy hour. Together, we'll explore all things wellness and wine. I hope you learn a little, laugh a lot, and along the way, know you're not alone on this balanced wellness journey. Ready to jump in? Pour something in your glass that makes you happy because it's time for Spandex and Wine. Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I am your host, Robin Hackney, and I have a treat for you today. As you know, the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl this upcoming weekend, so I wanted to give you a special episode. And I'm fortunate that years ago, my sister Kendall introduced me to J Kennison. So Eddie is going to join us today, and I'm just so excited to share this episode with you, and I hope that you will share it with a friend. J Kennison III grew up in Lake Charles, Louisiana, where he attended Washington-Marion High School and became a parade All-American. He recorded 27 receptions for 497 yards in 6 games as a senior and hailed in 59 passes for 1,205 yards with 23 touchdowns as a junior. In fact, Eddie made history as Washington-Marion's first player to have a number retired. Eddie was also gifted with great speed and became a standout performer in track. Eddie furthered his football career in education at Louisiana State University and received his degree in physical therapy along with countless awards for his outstanding football and track career. Through hard work, athletic ability, and perseverance, Eddie was able to achieve his dream of becoming an NFL player. In the summer of 1996, Eddie was drafted in the first round by the St. Louis Rams, 18th pick overall. He spent 3 seasons with the Rams before joining the offense in New Orleans in 1999. Year 2000 was spent with the Chicago Bears. It was not until 2001 that Eddie feels he really found his home when he became a Kansas City Chief. Under the direction of Coach Dick Vermeil, Eddie proudly wore number 87 for the Chiefs. He officially retired after a 13-year NFL career in 2010. Without further ado, J Kennison. Well, hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast, Eddie. I am super happy that you are here and grateful that you said yes.
Thank you, Robin, for having me, and I'm glad I said yes.
It's been a while since we've seen each other. So we actually met because of my sister. She had told me that you had a wine club. And so I'm like, well, heck yeah, that sounds great. And the bonus was that you delivered the wine yourself.
That's right. It was pretty fun. And we've gotten away from that because we moved from Kansas City. And I thoroughly enjoyed driving and delivering the wine for the simple fact, Robin, like every time I showed up at the business and you were there, it was like, oh, my wine is here. I forgot it was coming and it was exciting. And so I got that from all of our club members. So it was pretty fun.
Well, I'm sure everyone in the club felt just the same as me. And we were happy to see you too and your smiling face.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And we'll get more up to wine in just a moment, but I want to start with just the obvious with football. So your whole life has been around the sport. And I want to hear kind of early on, like some funny stories or memorable moments growing up with football, and we'll just make our way from there.
Yeah. Well, I guess I started, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. And I remember, playing against obviously other teams, but playing against other guys in my neighborhood. We played a game called Scramble, where, you have 10 to 12 guys in the backyard. You take a football, you toss it in the air, and whoever catches the ball, he has to try to score a touchdown against the other 10 or 11 guys that were there. So, and I quickly realized that I was a lot faster than the other guys and a lot more skilled than the other guys. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of took off from there. And from there, I got into like Pee Wee football. And Pee Wee football took me into middle school and then high school and then LSU and then ultimately the National Football League. And it started way back, and I still love watching the game to this day.
Yes. And you said that you're back at LSU now.
I'm back at LSU. I was the director of player development for LSU for 2 years. Now I'm with LSU Sports Properties in the athletic department. So I work with a lot of our corporate sponsors and partners for marketing and for hospitality things in and around LSU sports.
Oh, okay. That's great. It's great that you were able to go back then and be, where you graduated from.
That's right. And it's fun being back home. I was born and raised in Louisiana, Lake Charles, Louisiana. It's about 2 hours west of Baton Rouge, between Houston and Baton Rouge. And so my family's still here. All of my relatives are still here in Louisiana. So it was good to come back home and eat good Louisiana food on a consistent basis instead of waiting for a year or 8 months to eat Louisiana food. But I get to have it every day now.
Oh, that's great. What would you say then is your favorite meal?
Oh, Robin, when I tell you, there's there's no way that I can choose one favorite.
Yeah.
Everything that if it's done the proper way and if it's cooked the proper way and seasoned the proper way, we don't have bad dishes here in Louisiana. All of it will be really good.
Well, I have a private Facebook group for my listeners, and I put out a post and I said, okay, I'm interviewing Eddie Kennison. What do you want to know? And one of my friends said, Melanie Itel, she actually has a podcast also called We Bring the Wine, but she wants to know what was your favorite post-game meal and what wine would you pair with it now?
Oh, hi Melanie. That's a pretty awesome question. Oh man, my favorite post-game meal. I would probably have to say, and I go back to Louisiana. Normally, my then wife, we would cook a pot of gumbo or something at home, and after the game, especially in late November, December, when the games were really cold, kind of like it was this past weekend.
Yeah.
We'll get home and we'll reheat that pot of gumbo, and gumbo is always, because it has a little spice to it, always paired with a nice Pinot Noir.
Nice. That sounds lovely. And if it's really spicy, like, sweet likes heat, you could go a little bit sweeter too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do a Gewürztraminer. You can do,
Oh, yeah.
something a not so sweet Riesling, but you can always go a little bit sweeter if it's a little bit spicier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your time in Kansas City. So, when I was thinking about you being on here, I'm like, oh, 87. Now Kelsey's 87. I was like, okay, is he the original 87? Then I did look up and see that there were some other guys that wore that number, but those are the two that I remember. Um, Being in Chiefs Kingdom, do you miss it? I know we miss you. My sister Kendall wanted me to tell you that. We miss you. Tell us about some fun memories in Kansas City.
Yeah, so I lived in Kansas City for almost 20 years. Um, I kind of raised my two older boys in Kansas City. And, the memorable times, uh, being in the locker room, raising my boys there. There's so many great memories that was created there. And I still go back and I look at my photos from my time in Kansas City with the family and in the neighborhood and the boys' activities and going into the locker room and bringing my kids into the locker room. Uh, do I miss the game? The answer is yes. And there's three
Yeah.
components that I miss. I should say these will be the only three things that I truly miss about the game, right? So being in the locker room with the guys, that's
Mhm.
first and foremost. There's a lot of great fraternities, and sororities that are in the world. But for me, I never joined a true fraternity. Football and my teammates in the locker room, that was my fraternity. And there's no greater fraternity to me than the guys in the locker room and the five teams that I played with. The
Yeah.
second part of that is playing on Sundays, playing in Arrowhead. Well, now Gia Field at
Yeah.
Arrowhead. So playing on Sundays, there's no greater fan base, and I played just about in every stadium, that
Yeah.
NFL teams have. I didn't play in like the newer stadiums, but I played in all of the
Yeah.
team area state stadiums. And the fan base there, Kansas City, is so phenomenal. And always has been, and I believe always will be, because the Hunt family, they're so doggone fantastic. They're a great family.
Yeah.
So, and the third thing is the paychecks. When you wake up on Monday morning and you get a paycheck direct deposit for that amount of money every week, right? It's difficult to get back to that point in time if you hadn't figured it out or can't figure it out. It's hard to get to a point, whether you're a person that's in business or not, to make that type of money every
Yeah.
single week on a consistent basis. And those are the three things, and it's in that order, Robin, in that order.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine you having football playing since you were 6 or 7 years old, you said, and then it coming to an end. Because I know my boys played, one of them played a year of college soccer, and then the other one finished in baseball and played in college. And his last game, I was a mess. And I mean, for him too, to lose out on those teammates, I know mom does that. I think my husband shed a few tears too. But anyway, tell me about when it all just ends. I mean, luckily now you're still in the sport because you're at LSU, but it's different than playing it.
Oh, it's way different. But thank God, Robin, it was bittersweet. Um, I shared a tear when I knew that, my last game was happening.
Hmm.
But I knew who I was as a man at the time, as a husband, as a father, as a man of God. So I had total peace with being able to leave the game after 13 seasons, and being 35 years old. So I was at peace with leaving. And also, we had 5 businesses that we had in Kansas City. So I was able to transition from football right into the office and delivering wine and, doing all of the
Yeah.
fun things that, kept me busy. So I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't have any like true idle time. I just dove right into our businesses, and that kept me going. So I shed a tear for a little bit, but then it was time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
and I can imagine that you probably don't miss being hit. And that was one thing that my husband's like, he's like, you have to ask him about the most memorable hit. Who hit the hardest?
Ooh, buddy. I've had a few of those in my day. I don't even know how many concussions I actually had, but I know I've had quite a few.
Yeah.
I believe that the hardest hit that I remember taking, it was John Lynch, who's now the GM for the 49ers, and he was the safety for the Broncos then. And I was coming across the middle on a shallow crossing route, 5 yard shallow crossing route, and Trent, he just kind of lobbed it out for me to catch it, and he earholed me. And I remember seeing like little snowflakes starting to fall down, and my bell was rung. So when you're hurt, you see a lot of guys just kind of take a knee or lay on the ground and kind of give the hand like, "Hey, trainers, come get me." That was
Hmm.
me. That was probably the hardest lick that I'd taken my entire career.
Oh, I cannot even imagine. I say it every game. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I got hit like that, I would not move forever. Oh gosh. Now, you mentioned concussions and everything that you hear about now. Are you worried about that? What do you do to make sure that you stay on top of your health?
Mhm. Well, one, I'm not worried about it. Uh,
Hmm.
it's a deal that happened. It was a sport that I played, and it was part of the game. And
Hmm.
we've done a lot of fun things, and the owners in the National Football League have had they've moved in the right direction. As players, we sued the league a number of years ago. You guys probably know that,
Hmm.
or we were awarded X amount of millions of dollars for a period of time. So uh, the owners in the NFL, they've done right by correcting it and making sure that guys are taken care of when it's absolutely necessary. And for me and for my health, I go, a couple times a year, and I spend 3 days at Tulane Medical Center where I get a full evaluation, brain and body, all of the scans, everything.
Yeah.
Tulane does a fantastic job. And the National Football League, they pay for that. So I go in, I still get massages, chiropractor. I still go see my primary care doctor on a regular basis. So I'm staying up on it, and so yeah, we're
Good.
doing what we can and moving forward.
Yeah. Good. Good. And I can't imagine all of the fitness regimen that goes into that because I can truly appreciate watching you guys on TV and thinking, holy cow, the training that these guys go through. So tell me about what your day looked like when you were playing. What did you wake up at what time? What was your routine? And then what do you do now for your fitness?
Yeah. So during the season, we worked out twice a week during the actual football season. Just wanted to stay fit, wanted to stay in shape. But running, that was part of it. I probably, on a regular practice day on a Wednesday, I'd probably burn 7,000 calories in a practice. So the exercise, that was easy. Young, I could run all day. And we either worked out before practice or after practice. But running, that was just it. And now to this day, I don't run as fast, Robin. I've slowed down tremendously. and, and instead of running short, faster bursts, I go out and I run, anywhere from 2 to 4 miles on any given day. So a lot slower, a lot more time. But I still like to stay in decent shape. One, because I really enjoy drinking wine and I like eating
Yeah.
Louisiana food. So that's my motivation for me to go out and continue doing
Awesome.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So one of my friends, Jeff Quick, he actually has a company called Midwest Elite Cornhole. Dave and I, my husband, we play cornhole and we absolutely love it. But anyway, that's another topic. But he wanted to know, like, how did you first realize that you were enjoying wine? When were you introduced to wine? And what do you like to drink now?
Yeah, I was introduced to wine by a friend, and this is while I was playing in Kansas City. There was a little shop in Weston, Kansas that I used to like going to. It was called Maggie's, and
Okay, shout out to
not a lot of,
Maggie's.
yeah, it's not there anymore
Oh,
because,
okay.
yeah, so Maggie's, my friend, who I, got to know over the course of years, his parents had started this wine club and they ultimately gave it to him. And I would go in on, certain off days or whatever, just to kind of get away from everything. And they had a basement. So I'd go in there and I'd drink wine. And he ultimately asked me to be his partner in Maggie's. And I said yes. And then Maggie's turned into Cellar and Loft, which we had a store downtown,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
and then Cellar and Loft, I broke off and I started Barrel 87. So it started way at Maggie's with a friend, and it ended up being Barrel 87 at the end of the day. But that's kind of how I really found the love for wine and the appreciation for wine. And I would probably say I'm like most people when you're having wine or drinking wine, you would rather share that bottle and a story with someone else. And it's more of the stories than the wine and all of the great conversations that come from it. And I found that a lot, in Maggie's and then in ultimately my store and then ultimately delivering your wine and all of our other wine.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of how I got into it. And what I'm drinking today is what's ever in my glass. I should be having one now, but it's midday, Robin. I have to go
Yeah,
get my son from school at some point.
that's
But yeah,
right.
this summer, I know I was really on like brut rosés this past summer. And,
Okay.
we spent a lot of time at the pool and, most people bring cans of something, some seltzer, something, right? Me, I would find, I bought like a tumbler that would hold a bottle of wine. And because you can't have glass at the pool, right? And
Right, right. That's
I
frowned
bought
upon.
some, yeah, I bought some little Yeti wine cups, to go to the pool. So I would pour rosé into my tumbler and drink Brut Rosé while we're at the swimming pool. And now,
That sounds wonderful.
oh, it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. And now it just depends on, what meal I'm preparing or what we're having for dinner. We'll decide, what bottle of wine I'll have. And but I'm drinking a little bit of everything.
Good. I like that. Yes. Well, and I think you're totally right when you say that just so many special memories are shared over wine. And I think part of it is because it's easy when you're having a glass of wine with a friend or in a group to just be in that moment and not worry about anything else. And I feel like that's what this podcast has done for me as well. I get to have this time with you. Nothing else matters. It's just so much fun being able to connect with people. And you recently started a podcast.
That's right. And wow, it will launch probably early February when I release the actual first episode. Um, I want to get like 5 or 6 under my belt before I actually release the first one. And
Yes.
still working on packages. I just hired my social media content creator on Tuesday, so everything is unfolding, I should say. And the podcast is called Go To Legends. And in Louisiana, we
No,
spell
two
go,
legends.
Geaux. It's the number 2.
Okay.
That was my high school jersey number and my LSU jersey number. Legends, Go To Legends. And it's all former LSU athletes from all sports, not just football. And we're talking
Very cool.
life. When did you start? Where did life take you? How did you get to LSU recruiting? All of that fun stuff that a lot of people and fans, I should say, a lot of fans want to hear what's being talked about inside the locker room. Now, we're not going to share all
Yeah.
the stories in the locker room, but we'll share some, right? We'll share some.
Yeah.
And fans, they want to hear what happened then in the locker room, some stories, what's happening now, because we get to see a lot of video of what's happening inside the locker room. We get to hear some conversations of coaches having right now, but we get to tell some of those things for when we were in school when social media and HD cameras were not allowed in the locker rooms.
Yeah, thank God they weren't. Yeah.
That's right.
I'm so glad we grew up when we grew up.
That's right. That's right.
Well, what would you say that, what have you learned so far? I know you're new into podcasting. I mean, I'm fairly new, but what have you learned about yourself so far?
Yeah. Well, this is a time where I really have to be uncomfortable being comfortable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And a lot of conversations that I've always said I will never tell what went on inside of our locker rooms. I will never
Hmm.
share, the locker room. What's in the locker room stays in the locker room, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, we won't share every story, but I had to be, you know, I guess I should say I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the way I should have phrased that. And having those conversations with my former teammates and athletes from other sports, diving into what they did and how they feel and how they were treated and all of these fun things. And I have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and then asking the uncomfortable questions to
Right.
the former athletes, but also being respectful with how this answer will potentially come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm going to put all that in the show notes, so we'll make sure that we get that in there because I'm looking forward to listening. And you said it launches in February?
Yes, we will launch the first one in February, and I'll do a big social media post through my podcast and not podcast, but through my social media outlets, and all of the social media outlets will be Go To Legends. So it will be YouTube,
Okay.
it'll be Twitter, it'll be Instagram, it'll be X, it'll be Spotify, it'll be Apple. So it'll be streaming on all of those platforms.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, I haven't gotten into YouTube yet. So far I'm just audio, but I don't know. I think it's set up. Maybe this will be my first YouTube one. I don't know.
But hey, well, you never know, and there's so many wonderful things that come from YouTube, and I hope you absolutely look into it and dive into it because you could, if your podcast is overly successful as you're thinking it should be, and it should be, that you can do some great things through YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah. Ah, that's great. Okay, I have a few more questions from my friends. All right, so Jeff, same Jeff, wants to know what your favorite moment in college football and professional football was.
Oh wow. Okay. My favorite moment in college football. Um, well, I guess I have a couple, but I'll share one. It was 1994. We were playing Mississippi State here in Tiger Stadium, and it was a punt return that kind of went over my head. It bounced and it hit the 2 yard line, and I picked this ball up on the 2 yard line, and I get knocked back into the end zone like 6 yards, and I'm like, okay, I'm in trouble. So I make some moves, and I ultimately get out of it, and I run back that punt return for a technically 106-yard punt return
Oh my
in
gosh.
Tiger Stadium, and you can probably YouTube that at some point and see it. But that was probably my most memorable moment because I hear that one a whole lot, and since I've been back, everyone always asks me or tell me I was in the stadium when that happened, or they talk about it. So that was pretty memorable. I would probably say uh, my most memorable moment in Kansas City, and this is off the field. This wasn't on the field.
Okay.
When I first made it to Kansas City was my fifth team that I had been with. Um,
Hmm.
and I guess that was year 8, I believe, something like that, whatever year it was. Well, anyway, I get to Kansas City, and well, let me back up. Before then, the other 4 teams that I played for, I had never met the owners of the team, any of the teams.
Oh. Hmm.
I get to Kansas City, and Lamar Hunt greets me at the door and tells me that he's very excited that I'm going to be part of the Kansas City Chiefs family, and that he thanked me for agreeing to come and be a part of that family. And shortly after that, I got a handwritten note from Lamar stating the exact same thing that he had told me when he met me at the door. And from that point, when before the stadium had been redone at the bottom, when you walk through the tunnel to walk into our locker room, my locker was the second locker inside that door. And Lamar used to stand at the door after every game and shake everybody's hand and tell them, win, lose, or draw. He said, if we won, great game, proud of you guys. Thank y'all for being here. If we didn't win, he was like, hey, that's a tough loss. That's okay. We'll get it corrected. So that's memorable for me as
Yeah.
a person. And it helped me as a young athlete to say that if this owner can stand in and greet me at the door, I'm going to do everything that I can to help his organization win.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that story. And it's, the best leaders realize, just like everyone should, but life is about relationships. When it comes
That's
down to
right.
it, it's all about relationships and how you treat other people. So thank you for sharing that. That was great.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's also not only how you is the treatment, is it genuine? And
Right.
you can have some leaders that can say, "Oh yeah, I can do this," and you can see and feel that it's not genuine. But I knew
Yeah.
that Lamar Hunt and his family, they were absolutely genuine.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Good deal. My friend Mary Martha wants to know, did you have a routine prior to every game, like special meals or music? Like she mentioned that Mahomes wears special red briefs.
The answer is yes. Um,
Okay.
yeah. So every morning for game day, if the game was at noon, we had to be in the locker room on or before 10 a.m. And I would wake up at 6 a.m. and breakfast would already be ready, in the hotel that we were staying at, or it was at a place where we can stop in and grab breakfast before we got to the stadium. And I would always eat eggs, a large waffle with strawberries, syrup, and whipped cream on it. That was my
Oh my
breakfast.
gosh.
And I would make it to the stadium probably around 8 o'clock, so 4 hours before game time. And, the equipment guys, they would already have all of the lockers laid out. So my socks were a certain way and my gloves and everything were a certain way in my locker. And I would go in and I'd get into the hot and cold tub. So hot, cold tub contrast. I did that
Mm-hmm.
for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, 1 minute in the cold tub, 3 minutes in the hot tub. And I went back and forth for 15 minutes, 15, 16 minutes. And I got out, I showered, put some shorts on, and I went in to see the chiropractor. So I got adjusted. And right after the chiropractor, I got a massage. And after the light massage from the trainers, I went lay in my locker and put my headphones on with praise and worship music, just getting ready for the game. So the calm and the peace before the storm.
Nice. I love that. Have you
Yeah.
always been strong in your faith?
Yes. Well, it depends on what you say. Always strong. Like in my younger days,
Yeah.
Robin. You know, I was off the track for a little bit, but I
Sure.
probably say I've been very strong in my faith since about 2001. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's been some great years understanding me and understanding my peace and understanding that God has a greater purpose for me, whether I see it or have seen it, but I know that it's there. I know that at the end of the day that we have victory at the end
Yeah.
of the day. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened in 2001 that was kind of the moment where you deepened your faith?
Yeah, so I won't tell the whole story because I'll take up all of your time, but I almost
Okay.
I almost lost my family. I'll
Oh.
say that. I almost lost my family.
Oh my
I
gosh.
knew that I had to change a lot of things about who Eddie Kennison was.
Okay.
And once I got some understanding that, life comes at you fast, it comes at you hard, and it can change in an instant. And I
Yeah.
almost lost my family. So I said, all right, let me dig a little deeper.
Yeah. Well, good for you because some people never learn. So that's wonderful.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm going to call her my sister-in-law because I'm kind of just manifesting that. But my sister-in-law, Anissa, she wants to know, how do you keep yourself grounded with all the fame and attention, whether it's positive or negative?
Oh, that's pretty easy. Robin, I like to believe and I wake up in prayer every morning and I ask God to give me a serving heart. And it doesn't matter what walk of life you are as a person. Um, doesn't matter where you are in your faith. Doesn't matter your race, religion, creed. Doesn't matter. It's to serve you. And if I see that there's an issue, I do my best to ask a question and
Hmm.
do my best to help navigate what you're going through as a person and try to serve you in such a way to help you get back to balance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Oh, and I'm working right now with a group of ladies on establishing their morning routine and ritual and an evening ritual. And I'm right there with you. I feel like the way that you wake up in the morning sets the tone for the entire day, and you get to choose what that
That's right.
is.
Yep. Oh, that's it. And for me, and everyone has their own way of going about every day, right? I believe
Hmm.
the most powerful thing that we have as human beings is the power of choice. And that
Hmm.
goes with everything, the way you feel, the way you wake up, how you treat people, and so on and so forth. That's my belief. And I choose every morning, even though it don't always happen. I don't always feel like it. And I don't always, wake up with the best attitude, but it,
Right.
it changes pretty quickly for me because I choose to say, I will not let a day go by where I don't treat people and myself with the utmost godly respect that we absolutely deserve. And that's what I choose to do.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, what would you tell an up and coming athlete that wants to turn professional?
Oh, this may sound harsh, but it's pretty pretty solid, I think. Shut up and listen. And
Okay.
here's why I say that. And it's not saying be quiet about the things that are going on in the world, about you as a person, about most people listen to respond. And I say listen to get information. You may not agree, you may not hear everything, but there may be something in what you're saying or what I'm saying that you could benefit from. And when that person is done explaining or saying or whatever the case may be, then respond after that. That's why I said it may sound harsh. And there's so many things that's in that, because young guys that are coming in to the National Football League, they have a lot of voices and a lot of things that are happening family wise, and a lot of people that are in their ear, their agent, their mom and dad, their uncles, their cousins, their CPA, blah, 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 all of those people. Listen to the people that love you. Get a good feel for the people who are genuine and want the best for you. Just shut up and listen to those right voices, and you'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good advice. All right. Well, my sister Kendall says hello. So I wanted to tell you hello for her. And she said also that she really wishes that you could have played with Mahomes.
Well, hello, Kendall. I wish that I could have played with Pat. I mean, I had a pretty doggone great quarterback, Trent Green himself.
Yeah.
Uh, but it would have been fun to play in these type of offenses. I promise. Even in college, I would have loved to play in these type of offenses. It would have been pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not this last weekend when it was -10.
I still would have had fun. You know, it's just part of the game. You know, it's part of it. It's not great football weather, but we still have fun doing it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, this has been so nice. I really appreciate you taking the time. And like I said, I'll put everything in the show notes so people can find your podcast, they can follow you and all the wonderful things that you're doing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Robin. And I'll send you an email with all of the other information that you asked me for. So I'll get that over
Yeah.
to you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you and you take care.
Thank you, Robin. Thanks for having me on. So enjoy the show. Have a great rest of the year. And I wish you all of the great success for your podcast.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you, Eddie. Although there were questions that now I'm like, oh gosh, why didn't I ask about balancing your life and family as an athlete and just joint pain in general? So many other questions that I could have asked, but I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation and I hope you did too. So here are a few takeaways. 1, when cooked properly and seasoned correctly, you can't go wrong with a traditional Louisiana dish. Try pairing it with a Pinot Noir or Gewürztraminer. 2, Eddie and I are biased, but there's no greater fan base than in Kansas City or owners like the Hunt family. 3, everything comes to an end. It is okay to shed a tear when one chapter of your life ends, but be open to new ones and make it happen. 4, Eddie mentioned one practice burns 7,000 calories on average. I challenge you to track your calories burned during your next workout to compare the magnitude of a player's endurance and strength. 5, wine connects people in a special way and creates memories. Grab a bottle and a friend and get lost in sharing stories. 6, life is about relationships. Show up, be present, and always be genuine. 7, don't ever forget, life comes at you hard and can change in an instant. Never take anything for granted. 8, one of the most powerful things you possess is the ability of choice. Try choosing to approach each day with a serving heart. 9, shut up and listen. Listen not to respond, but to truly hear the other person. Listen to those that love you and who are genuine in wanting the best for you. Be sure to follow Eddie's podcast, Geaux Legends, and check out the show notes for all the details and to find Eddie's complete profile. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to follow Spandex and Wine so you don't miss an episode. To do this, just go to the podcast and click subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. Look for the + sign or follow button. This is one of the best things that you can do for the podcast. If you'd also be willing to give a 5-star review, that would be amazing and much appreciated. Lastly, please share an episode with a friend or 5 to keep the love going, and join the Spandex and Wine community in our private Facebook group by searching Spandex and Wine. Feel free to reach out to me at any time by emailing info@spandexandwine.com or text me at 913-392-2877. I appreciate you. Thank you.